Hello there friends, it's Ashley here from the Loopy Lamb and theloopylamb.com, and thanks so much for stopping by the channel. It's week 2 of the Crochetasaurus Rex Crochet Along, and in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make the eyelids for our dinosaur as well as the head and body piece. So to follow along with today's tutorial, you'll need the following materials. You're going to need your 3.25mm or D crochet hook. You'll need a pair of scissors. You're going to need a pair of 20mm safety eyes. I'm using these silver glitter safety eyes that I got from Chateau Bornay Crochet. You're going to need the main color of yarn that you've been using for your dinosaur, and we're using a worsted weight yarn for our dinosaur. I'm using this beautiful green color from Keenan Hand Dyed Yarns. You're going to need some stitch markers and potentially a scrap piece of yarn or two, a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle, and some polyfill stuffing. So let's hop on into working on our Crochetasaurus Rex. Alright, so we're going to start our dinosaur's head and body, which is made in a single piece, and we're working from the top of the head down to the bottom of the body. So we're going to start with color B here, which is my green color, and we're going to create a slip knot. So take your yarn tail, lay it across the palm of your hand and wrap it around your hand, create an X and flop it over. Then you're going to pin your yarn between your middle finger and your ring finger. Now you can use your hook or your finger to do this next part. Insert your hook under the first strand, over the second, and then pull that second strand all the way out. Then you're going to gently remove your fingers, grab onto those yarn tails, and then pull up with your hook or finger and down on the yarn tails to tighten up that slip knot. Then we're going to tighten the slip knot up to our hook. Make sure you can move it back and forth like this, and you're ready to start crocheting. To start the head of our dinosaur, we're going to need to do a chain of 17. So we're going to start our chain by yarning over hook and pulling that through the loop on our hook, and that's one chain. Again, yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook. That's 2. We're going to continue this yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook until you have 17 chains. All right, so when you've done your chain, it's a good time to take a pause and count your chains to make sure you have the right number. We never count the yarn on our hook as a chain, and we start counting from this chain over to the slip knot. You can also count from the slip knot up to this first chain here. And so you count the V's. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So once you've got your 17 chains, you can move on to round 1. So for round 1, we're going to work a single crochet increase into the second chain from the hook. So again, we never count the yarn on our hook as a chain. We're going to count over 1 and 2, and I've got my finger placed next to that second chain so I know where I'm going to insert my hook. Now we're going to insert a hook through the center of that chain, and you know you've done it correctly when you've got 2 loops on your hook when you insert your hook into the chain. Then you're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. There should be 2 loops on your hook. Then yarn over and pull through both loops to complete your first single crochet. So when we do a single crochet increase, it's 2 single crochets worked into the same stitch. So since we've already done one, we're going to go back into the same chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, 2 loops on your hook, then yarn over and pull through both loops to complete your second single crochet as part of your increase. Now, if you'd like, you can place a stitch marker in that first stitch so that way you don't lose it, but we will definitely be using it in the second round. Now, just a tip, we're going to be working across this chain and into the other side of the chain. I have some tips here on the channel that will help you if you encounter any sort of issues when you're working into your chain. If it looks gappy or it looks stretchy, you want to check out that video here on the channel, and it will help you problem solve those. Okay, so then we're going to look at the next steps here in our pattern, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 14 chains. So inserting our hook into the next chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through both loops to finish your single crochet. And we're just going to work one of those single crochets into each of the, well, now next 12 chains because we've already got 2 stitches done. All right. And if you don't want to count, you're just going to work 1 single crochet all the way until there's 1 chain left to be worked. All right. So give me 1 moment and I'll meet you back here and show you what we're going to work into that last chain. So I've got my 14 single crochets completed. I've worked in all of those chains and I have 1 chain left to be worked. And in this last chain, we're going to work 3 single crochets into the same chain. So working into that chain, single crochet once, back into the same chain. Just going to hold this yarn tail out of the way here for us. Here's the second time, and then back into the chain a third time to do our 3rd single crochet. And so what happens when we work those 3 single crochets is into the same chain is it acts as a pivot point and helps to turn our work. So that way we can continue to work along the other side of our piece. So what we're going to do now is we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the remaining 15 chains. When you're working on the opposite side of the chain, you never work into that last chain because you've done your 3 stitches there. We're going to start immediately in the next chain. So you should have these loops remaining and you're just going to insert your hook into that chain and single crochet. And you're going to insert into the next remaining loop of the chain and single crochet. And we should have a total of these 15 loops remaining. So you're just going to work 1 single crochet into each of those remaining loops. So I've done 14 of my 15 single crochets I'm supposed to do to finish this round. And I just wanted to stop here and pause to show you the last chain. So sometimes when you work your first stitches into that first chain, it can kind of obscure that chain. Here it's a little more obvious here, and it's helped by the fact that I'm using wool yarn for its great stitch definition. But this, you do need to work into that very first chain that you worked into for this round. So you're going to go into that chain and work your last single crochet there. And this is what your piece should look like. Now it looks kind of like an oval, and you should have 34 stitches in your piece. So grab your stitch marker if you don't already have it in use, because we're going to be needing it in just a moment to mark the first stitch of our second round. So now we're moving into round 2, and to start round 2, we're going to work 1 single crochet into that first stitch. And then once you complete that stitch, you're going to place your stitch marker into the top of that stitch, and we're going to continue to move this stitch marker up to mark the first stitch of each round as we continue to progress through our piece. Now we're going to work a single crochet increase into this next stitch. So again, that's 2 single crochets worked into the same stitch. So there's 1 and 2. And now we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 14 stitches. So if you'd like to pause your video, meet me back here at the end of the 14 stitches. I'll show you what we'll do next. All right, so now that we have our 14 single crochets completed, we're going to work a single crochet increase into this next stitch. So here's the first part of that increase, back into the same stitch, and the second part of our increase there. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into this next stitch. And now if your stitches on the end are curling inwards, that's totally normal. You're just going to have to kind of bend the piece slightly so that way you can grab both loops of the stitch in order to work them. It won't be a problem for much longer. It's usually just in this first and second round here. So now we're going to work a single crochet increase into this next stitch. There's 1, back into the same stitch, and there's 2. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 14 stitches. If you'd like to pause your video and work 14 single crochets, I'll meet you back here in a moment to show you how we're going to finish off this round. So now that I've worked my 14 single crochets, I should have 1 stitch left to be worked in this round, and we're going to work a single crochet increase into this round. So again, that's 2 single crochets worked into the same stitch. At the end of this round, you should have 38 single crochet stitches. Now we're moving into round 3. We're going to move that stitch marker out of the way, and then we're going to work 1 single crochet into that first stitch. Once your first stitch is completed, you're going to move that stitch marker up and place it into the stitch. Then we're going to work 1 single crochet into the next stitch. Now we'll work a single crochet increase into the next stitch. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 15 stitches. So if you'd like to do 15 single crochets, I'll meet you back here in just a moment to show you what our next steps are. So now that I have my 15 single crochets, I'm going to work a single crochet increase into the next stitch. Then we're going to work 1 single crochet into the next stitch. And 1 single crochet into the next stitch. Now we're going to work a single crochet increase into this next stitch here. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 15 stitches. So again, if you'd like to pause this and work 15 single crochets, I'll meet you back here to show you what we're going to do in the last stitch of the round. All right, so I'm back and I've done my 15 single crochets, and we have one last stitch here to work. In this last stitch, we're going to work a single crochet increase into that stitch. At the end of round 3, you should have 42 stitches around your piece. So then we're moving into round 4. To start round 4, we're going to move that stitch marker out of the way, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into that first stitch. Then we'll move up our stitch marker. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. Now, if you're following along with the written instructions, it says single crochet 3. So we should have 3 single crochets worked already. So now we're going to work a single crochet increase into the next stitch. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 16 stitches. So if you'd like to pause your video and work 1 single crochet into each of the next 16 stitches, I'll meet you back here in just a moment to show you what our next steps are. So now that I have my 16 single crochets completed, we're going to work a single crochet increase into this next stitch here. And then we'll work 1 single crochet into each of these next 3 stitches. Then we'll work a single crochet increase into this next stitch. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 16 stitches. So if you'd like to pause your video and work 16 single crochets, I'll meet you back here in just a moment to show you what we'll be doing in the last stitch of the round. All right, so I'm back and I've done my 16 single crochets. I have 1 stitch left to be worked, and we're going to work an increase into this last stitch. So again, a single crochet increase, those 2 stitches worked into the same stitch. At the end of round 4 here, you should have 46 single crochet stitches. All right, so now we're moving into round 5. We're going to move our stitch marker, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into that first stitch. Then we'll move up our marker. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. And now we'll work a single crochet increase into the next stitch. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 17 stitches. So if you'd like to pause your video and work 17 single crochets, I'll meet you back here in just a moment. All right, so I've done my 17 single crochets, and now we're going to work a single crochet increase into the next stitch here. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. And then we're going to work a single crochet increase into the next stitch. And now we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 17 stitches. So if you'd like to pause your video and work 17 single crochets, I'll meet you back here in just a moment to show you how we'll finish off this round. All right, so I just finished my 17 single crochets, and we're going to work a single crochet increase into this last stitch of the round. At the end of this round, you should have 50 stitches. So for rounds 6, 7, and 8, we're going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So if you'd like to pause your video and work rounds 6, 7, and 8, working 1 single crochet into each stitch around, don't forget to move up your stitch marker, and I'll meet you back here at the end of round 8 because we need to place a marker in that round for our safety eyes. So I'll meet you back here in just a moment. All right, so I'm back and I just finished my last stitch of round 8, and the instructions say that we need to place some markers here for safety eyes. Now it will say insert your safety eyes into stitches 11 and 43 of rounds 8. So normally if you see that, you have to place a marker in those stitches, because if you were to say put your safety eyes into those stitches now, you wouldn't be able to continue to crochet because that stitch would be filled with your safety eyes. So we need to mark the stitches and then continue to crochet past this point for several rounds before we can actually insert our safety eyes. So this is where our stitch markers or our scrap pieces of yarn come in handy. And then we're going to take a look at our piece. And we know that our first stitch is where the stitch marker is located. And we're going to count over to find stitch 11. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So I'm going to put my finger next to stitch 11, and I'm just going to pop my hook in there and pull this yarn stitch marker through. I'm not going to pull it all the way through. I'm just going to let it hang there like this. So then we need to find stitch 43. So we're at 11. So we go 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 24, 35, 43. So this is stitch 43 here. Again, putting my finger next to the stitch, putting my hook through the stitch, and then I'm going to grab my yarn with the tip of my hook and pull the yarn all the way through. Now, if you're going to put a locking stitch marker in there or a typical stitch marker in there, you can do that, but then you have to remove them and put it back into that stitch as you keep moving. So I do find that the yarn tails work the best. So now we're moving on to the instructions for rounds 9 through 14, and they are the same as the last few rows we've been working. We're just going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So you move your stitch marker out of the way, work your first stitch, and then move up your stitch marker, and you're just going to single crochet around. Now when you get to your stitch marker, I recommend that you hold it down and then crochet into the stitch, and you should just take care not to catch any of the yarn in the stitch that you're doing. All right, so if you'd like to pause your video and work rounds 9 through 14, working 1 single crochet in each stitch around, I'll meet you back here at the end of round 14, and we'll show you what we're going to be working on in the next steps. All right, so I'm back and I just finished all of my single crochet rounds. I just finished round 14. And at this point, we have crocheted past our safety eye markers enough that you can put these safety eyes into your toy. So what you're going to do is you can either leave the marker in or take it out when you put it in, or when you're about to put your eye in, because I like to leave it in because if I take it out and then something happens, a child comes and distracts me, or the phone rings, or anything happens, I have to try and remember where that was. So I leave it in as long as I can. And because of the size of eyes that we're using and how tight the fabric is, it could be tricky for you to put your safety eye in there. And one last tip before we put our safety eyes in, you want to make sure that the right side of your fabric is facing out. So your fabric should look similar to what I have here. If your work looks like this, that is the wrong side of the fabric. So you want to make sure that you have it turned the right side out before you go and insert your eyes. So then you insert your eyes into the stitches that you have your stitch marker in. And again, it could be kind of tight in there. But once they go in, they're not coming back out. All right, so I've got one of my safety eyes in here now. I'm going to pull that marker out. And then off to the side here, I have what I like to jokingly call stitch marker, or goodness, I like to jokingly call safety eye tea. And so you're like, why the heck are you doing that, Ashley? And so what I've done is I've boiled a little bit of water and I put the backs of my safety eyes in the water, and I'm just kind of tapping the back off on the paper towel I have here to dry. And what doing that does is it softens the plastic temporarily, so you can more easily slip the backings onto your safety eyes. Right? So there you go. That was much easier than if I hadn't soaked the eyes or the backings. You don't have to do that. There are definitely tools that can help you do that. But with how many safety eyes that I use, I find that those tools do get hard on my hands. So I just place the backings in a little bit of boiling hot water for only a few minutes before I'm ready to use them, and then they're ready to pop in. So I'm going to put my other safety eye in, and then I'll meet you back here in just a moment, and we'll move on to round 15 together. All right, so I'm back. I have my safety eyes in. You can see that they're here on both sides and they're secured well in the back. Now, before we move on, I recommend that you take some time to weave in your tail from the beginning of our toy. If you don't want to weave them in, that's totally cool. Just tie a quick little knot in the yarn tail right close to the fabric, and it shouldn't budge on you. Okay. And then by leaving it in there, it just contributes to the stuffing of our toy. All right. So we're moving on to round 15 now. I'm going to move that stitch marker out of the way, and we're going to start shaping the chin of our dinosaur's head in the back of the head here. So we're going to start by working a single crochet decrease. And when we work with Amigurumi, we want to use a technique called the invisible decrease. And what that does is, in the name, you're going to make your invisible or your decrease invisible, or, at least a little less visible. So we're going to take a look at our stitches and see that we've got two loops. We've got ones that are closest to us and ones that are furthest from us in every single stitch around. When we're working the invisible decrease, we're going to insert our hooks up and under the front loops only of those stitches. Okay, so again, I'll show you that again. The front loops are the one closest to. You're going to take your hook and insert it up and through the front loop only of the first stitch. And then we're going to kind of flip our hook and use the tip of it here to pick up the front loop of the next stitch. And then we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. You should have two loops on your hook. Then we'll yarn over and pull through both loops. And then you can take your stitch marker and place that into the top of that stitch. So what you're doing is you're just working essentially what's a normal single crochet, but you're working it through the front loops of the first and the second stitches. And by doing that, you're turning two stitches into one. And that's where the decrease part comes in. So now we're moving on to our next set of instructions, and that is we're going to work one single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. So we're going to go 1, and 4, and then we're going to do another single crochet decrease. So again, we're doing the invisible decrease. So up and under the front loop only of the first stitch, under the front loop only of the second stitch, pull that loop through, and then yarn over and pull through 2 to complete your single crochet decrease. And now we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 15 stitches. So if you'd like to pause your video and work 15 single crochets, I'll meet you back here in just a moment to show you the next steps. All right, so now we have our 15 single crochets. We're going to do 2 single crochet decreases over the next 4 stitches. So working up and under the front loops of the first and second stitch, then single crochet, and then up and under the front loops of the first and second stitch, and then yarn over, and then yarn over. Okay, so now that we've done our 2 decreases, we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. And then we're going to work 2 more of our decreases. So again, up and under the front loops of the first and second stitch. And then our second decrease, up and under the front loops of the first and second stitch. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the remaining 17 stitches. At the end of this round, you should have 44 stitches. So if you'd like to pause your video and work 1 single crochet into each of the remaining stitches, I'll meet you back here at the end of the round to show you how we move into round 16. All right, so we are moving into round 16. So we're going to move this stitch marker out of the way, and we're going to start by working 1 single crochet into that first stitch. And then we're going to move up our marker, and then we'll work 1 single crochet into the second stitch. And now we're going to do a single crochet decrease. So again, we're going to work up and under the front loops of that first and second stitch. And now we'll do another decrease. So up and under the next 2 stitches, the front loops of those 2 stitches. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 13 stitches. So if you'd like to pause your video and work 1 single crochet into each of the next 13 stitches, I'll meet you back here in just a moment. So now we've done our 13 single crochets. We're going to work 2 single crochet decreases. So up and under the front loops of the first and second stitch here. And then another decrease. All right, so now we've done our 2 decreases. We're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. All right, so our next step here is to do 2 single crochet decreases. So we're going to work our first one here, working up and under the front loops of the first and second stitch. And then our next one. All right, so now that we've got our 2 decreases done, we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 12 stitches. So if you'd like to pause your video and work 1 single crochet into each of the next 12 stitches, I'll meet you back here in just a moment. All right, so I've done my 12 single crochets and we have 3 stitches left to be worked here in round 16. So we're going to start by doing a single crochet decrease. So again, up and under the front loops of the first and second stitch. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into that remaining stitch there. At the end of round 16, you should have 37 stitches. And we'll just take a moment because we haven't taken a look at our head for a bit. This is what your piece should look like. We'll turn it over. Kind of starting to look like a dinosaur. So now we're moving into round 17. So we're going to move our stitch marker out of the way. And we're going to work 1 single crochet into that first stitch. Then we're going to grab our stitch marker and place that into the top of that stitch. Then we're going to work 1 single crochet into the next stitch. And now we'll do a single crochet decrease. So up and under the front loops of that first and second stitch. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 11 stitches. All right, so now that we've got our 11 stitches done, we're going to do 2 single crochet decreases. So again, up and under the front loops of the first and second stitch. And again to do a second. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. There's 1 and 2. And then we're going to work 2 single crochet decreases. So again, front loops of the first and second stitch there. There's 1, and front loops of the next 2 stitches as well. And there's 2. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 10 stitches. All right, at the end of the round here, we have 2 stitches left to be worked, and we're going to work a single crochet decrease. So remember the up and under the front loops of those 2 stitches. And then finish the stitch. At the end of round 17, you should have 31 stitches. Now, at this point, this is the best point for you to start stuffing. I'm going to leave mine a little later, so that way it doesn't hinder your what you can see while I'm working. But you should start stuffing your head now, and you should continue to add stuffing as you're progressing. Okay, I'm not going to continue to remind you about stuffing. Just try to remember to continue to add stuffing as you progress. And now when you're stuffing your toy, add small bits at a time. And when you have a properly stuffed toy, it should be firmly stuffed. And now here's my initial sample here. When I press that, it feels like a ripe orange. It's relatively firm. It doesn't have a lot of give. Okay. And you don't want to overstuff it to the point that you can stretch your fabric. And that's why you want to add small amounts at a time. All right. So I'll leave you a moment to do that, and then we're going to move on to round 18. So to start round 18, we're moving our stitch marker out of the way, and we're going to start by working 1 single crochet into that very first stitch there. And placing our stitch marker back into that stitch. Then we're going to work 1 single crochet into the next stitch. And then we're going to work 2 single crochet decreases. So we're going to decrease once here, again, using the front loops of those stitches. And then we're going to do another decrease. So front loops of the first and second stitches again. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 6 stitches. There's 3. All right, now that we have 6 single crochets, we're going to do another 2 single crochet decreases. So again, up and under the front loops of the first and second stitch. And again with the next 2 stitches. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. And then we're going to work 2 single crochet decreases. So up and under the front loops of the first and second stitch. And then again a second time in the next 2 stitches. And now we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. And then we're going to do 2 single crochet decreases. So again, up and under the front loops of the first and second stitch. And then we do it again with the next 2 stitches. At the end of round 18, you should have 23 stitches. And of course, we're counting the live edge stitches here in our piece. Now we're moving into round 9. We're going to move that stitch marker out of the way. And we're going to start by working 1 single crochet into the first stitch. Moving up our marker. And then 1 single crochet into each of the next 7 stitches. So we've got our 8 single crochets, and now we're going to do 5 single crochet decreases. All right, so up and under the front loops of the first and second stitch. There's 1. Up and under the front loops of the next 2 stitches. There's 2. Up and under the next 2 front loops. Oops. There's 3. And the next 2. Goodness. There's 4. And there's 5. So now that we've got our 5 decreases completed, we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the remaining 5 stitches. At the end of round 19, you should have 18 single crochet stitches. So I just took a moment to add some stuffing to my head here, and I wanted to pop in before we move into round 20 to talk about another stuffing tip. When you're adding the stuffing, what you want to do is you want to feel around inside the piece with your finger. And when you're feeling around inside the piece, you'll find little pockets of air or pockets that are gaps in your stuffing. And what you want to do is take those small pieces of stuffing after you kind of separate them and fluff them up, and you want to use those to fill those gaps. Anytime that you find a gap in there, you want to try and fill those as much as possible, because the more gaps and air that you have in your stuffing there, the more place that your stuffing has to go to settle. And over time and with play, your toy will, the stuffing will settle, and it will leave your toy looking less lackluster. So it's best to spend the time now to take a little bit of extra time to add that stuffing in there properly. All right, so I think my head is looking good now, and I'm ready to move into round 20. So for round 20, we're going to start by working 1 single crochet into that first stitch. Don't forget to move up your marker. Then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 6 stitches. Now that I have my 7 single crochets, I'm going to do 4 single crochet decreases. And what we're doing with these decreases, as you can probably already guess, is that we're closing in this area here under the chin. So we're going to work up and under the front loops of the first and second stitches here. There's 1. And again, over the next 2 stitches. There's 2. These ones can be a little tricky, so don't get distraught if it is a little tricky. You just need to slow down a little bit to grab those front loops. There's 3. And there's 4. So now we've got our 4 decreases done. We're going to work 1 single crochet into each of these remaining 3 stitches. So at the end of round 20, you should have 14 stitches. For round 21, we're just going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So if you'd like to pause your video and don't forget to move up your stitch marker, I'll meet you back here at the end of round 21 to show you what we're doing in round 22. All right, so we're moving into round 22, so I'm going to move my stitch marker out of the way. And then we're going to work a single crochet increase into this first stitch. And as a reminder, a single crochet increase is 2 single crochets worked into the same stitch. So we'll start by working our first single crochet and moving up our marker. Then going back into that same stitch to complete our second single crochet. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. And then a single crochet increase into the next. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 10 stitches. So if you'd like to pause your video and work 10 single crochets, that should take you to the end of the round. And at the end of the round, you should have 16 stitches. So I'll finish this up and I'll meet you back here and show you what we'll be doing in the next round momentarily. So now we're moving into round 23. We're moving our marker out of the way. And for round 23, we have a pattern repeat we need to do a total of 4 times. And that repeat is 3 single crochets followed by a single crochet increase. So let's do those together now. So we're going to work 1 single crochet into that first stitch and move up our marker. And so since we have to do 3 single crochets, we've only done 1. We're going to do 1 into each of the next 2 stitches as well. And now we're going to work a single crochet increase into the next stitch. And that's our first pattern repeat. Let's do that again. 1 single crochet into each of the first 3 stitches. Followed by a single crochet increase into the next. And that's our next pattern repeat. And we're going to do this 2 more times. So 1 single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. Followed by a single crochet increase. One single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. Followed by a single crochet increase into that last stitch. At the end of round 23, you should have 20 single crochets. So moving into round 24, we'll move our marker and we're going to work 1 single crochet into that first stitch. Move up our marker. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into the next stitch as well. Now we'll work a single crochet increase into this next stitch. And now we'll work 1 single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. And there's 4. And now we'll work a single crochet increase into the next stitch. And now we're going to do that again. 1 single crochet into each of the first 4 stitches. Followed by a single crochet increase into the next. All right, we'll do this one last time. 1 single crochet into each of the first 4 stitches. A single crochet increase into the next stitch. And then 1 single crochet into each of the remaining 2 stitches. At the end of round 24, you should have 24 stitches. So now we're moving into round 25, and the instructions for rounds 25 through 29 are all the same. You're just going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around. Don't forget to move up your stitch marker, and you should maintain the stitch count of 24 stitches in each round. So if you'd like to pause your video now and work rounds 25 through 29, working 1 single crochet into each stitch around, I'll meet you back here shortly to show you how we're moving into round 30. All right, so I just finished rounds 25 through 29. We're moving into round 30. To start round 30, we're going to start by working 1 single crochet into each of the first 5 stitches. So we're going to work that first stitch and then move up our marker. And then we're going to work 4 more single crochets. So now that we have our 5 single crochets completed, we're going to do a single crochet increase into the next stitch. So this is the first of a 4 pattern repeat that we need to do, or a repeat that we need to do 4 times. So we're going to do 5 single crochets followed by a single crochet increase 3 more times. So 1 single crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. 1, 3, and 5, and then we're going to do a single crochet increase into the next stitch here. And now we need to do that repeat 2 more times. So 1 single crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. Followed by a single crochet increase into this next stitch here. And then one last time, 1 single crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. And a single crochet increase into this last stitch here. At the end of round 30, you should have 28 single crochet stitches. So now we're moving into round 31. For round 31, we're just going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So if you'd like to pause your video and work 1 single crochet into each stitch around, I'll meet you back here at the end of the round to show you how we're moving into round 32. All right, so we're moving into round 32, and we're going to move our stitch marker out of the way. And we're going to start round 32 by working 1 single crochet into each of the first 3 stitches. So let's work our first stitch here and move up our marker. There's 2 and 3. So now that we have our 3 single crochets completed, we're going to work a single crochet increase into this next stitch. And now we have a pattern repeat that we need to do 3 times. And that pattern repeat is 1 single crochet into each of the first 6 stitches, followed by a single crochet increase. So let's do that together now. So here's 1, and here is 6. Now that I have my 6 single crochets completed, I'm going to work a single crochet increase into this next stitch here. And now we're going to do that repeat again. We're going to work 6 single crochets. So here's 1, 3, and 6. And now we'll work a single crochet increase into this next stitch here. I apologize if I went off the camera there a little bit. I'm trying to keep it in the camera, but I have to kind of hold it at a weird angle in order to make it visible. So if I do go off the camera, I do apologize. I'm trying my best to keep it as centered as possible. So we're going to do that repeat one last time, and that repeat is 6 single crochets followed by an increase. So here's 1, 6, and there's 6, and then we'll do our increase here in the next stitch. You should have 3 stitches here that we need to work, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of those remaining 3 stitches. All right, so now we're going to move on to round 33, and before we do that, the stitch count at the end of round 32 should be 32 stitches. So moving into round 33, we're just going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So if you'd like to pause your video and work 1 single crochet in each stitch around, I'll meet you back here to show you what we're doing next for round 34. All right, so we're moving into round 34, and we're going to move our stitch marker out of the way here. And our repeat for round 34 is 7 single crochets followed by a single crochet increase, and we're going to do that 4 times. So let's do that together now. We're going to work 1 single crochet into that first stitch and move up our marker. And then 1 single crochet into each of the next 6 stitches. So now that I have my 7 single crochets completed, we're going to work a single crochet increase into the next stitch. And that's our first pattern repeat completed. We're going to do this 3 more times. So 1 single crochet into each of the next 7 stitches. And a single crochet increase into this next stitch. All right, and again, 1 single crochet into each of the next 7 stitches. Followed by a single crochet increase into the next. And one last time, 1 single crochet into each of the next 7 stitches. Followed by a single crochet increase into this last stitch here. At the end of round 34, you should have 36 stitches. For round 35, we're going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So if you'd like to pause your video and work 1 single crochet into each stitch, I'll meet you back here when we're ready to move on to round 36. All right, so we're moving into round 36. So we're going to move our stitch marker out of the way, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the first 4 stitches. There's 1. Move our marker up, and then 1 single crochet into these next 3 stitches to get our 4. Once you have your 4 single crochets completed, you're going to work a single crochet increase into the next stitch. And then we have a repeat that we need to do 3 times. And that repeat is 1 single crochet into each of the first 8 stitches, followed by a single crochet increase. So let's do that together. 1 single crochet into each of the first 8 stitches. So there's 1. Now that we've got 8, we're going to work a single crochet increase into this next stitch. All right, so that's our first repeat completed. We're going to do this 2 more times. 1 single crochet into each of the next 8 stitches. There's 1, 4, and there's 8. And my yarn ball is inching towards me. All right, now we're going to work a single crochet increase into the next stitch. And then we're going to do that repeat 1 more time. So 1 single crochet into each of the next 8 stitches. Followed by a single crochet increase here into this next stitch. Now we have 4 stitches left to be worked in this round, and we're just going to work 1 single crochet into each of these remaining stitches. At the end of round 36, you should have 40 stitches around. So moving into round 37, you're just going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So if you'd like to pause your video and work 1 single crochet into each stitch, I'll meet you back here when we're ready to move into round 38. All right, so we're moving into round 38, and in round 38, we're going to start decreasing our stitch count. So that way we're starting to begin the closing of our dinosaur's bottom here. So if you haven't been stuffing, you really need to take that time to do that now and make sure you're continuing to stuff as we're going here. So moving into round 38, we're going to start by working 1 single crochet into each of the first 4 stitches. So here's my first stitch. Move up my marker, and then 1 single crochet into these next 3 stitches. So now that I have my 4 single crochets completed, we're going to work an invisible decrease. So again, just as a reminder, up and under the front loops of the first and second stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through 2. And now we're going to work 8 single crochets, so 1 single crochet into each of the next 8 stitches. So now that we've got our 8 single crochets completed, we're going to work another single crochet decrease, and again up and under the front loops, under of the first and second stitch. And then we'll do that again, 1 single crochet into each of the next 8 stitches. Followed by an invisible single crochet decrease. So up and under the front loop only of the first and second stitch. And once again, 1 single crochet into each of the next 8 stitches. Followed by a decrease. So again, front loops of the first and second stitch. And then 1 single crochet into each of the remaining 4 stitches. At the end of round 36, oh goodness, at the end of round 38, you should have 36 stitches. So moving into round 39, we have a pattern repeat we need to do a total of 6 times, and that repeat is 1 single crochet into each of the first 4 stitches, followed by a single crochet decrease. So let's do that together here. So we're going to work 1 single crochet into that first stitch, move up our marker, and 1 single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. Now that we have our 4 single crochets completed, we'll do another single crochet decrease. So up and under the front loops of those 2 stitches. And that's our first pattern repeat completed. We now need to do this 5 more times. So we'll do this only a couple more times together, and I'll let you pause and do it on your own. So 1 single crochet into each of the first 4 stitches. And there's 4, followed by a single crochet decrease. And that's our second repeat completed. We'll do this one more time together. 1 single crochet into each of the first 4 stitches. Followed by another single crochet decrease. And that's our third pattern repeat completed. So if you'd like to pause your video and do 3 more repeats of 4 single crochets followed by a decreased stitch, at the end of this round, you should have 30 single crochet stitches. And I'll meet you back here in just a moment to show you how we're moving into round 40. So moving into round 40, we're going to move that stitch marker out of the way. And then we're going to have a pattern repeat that we need to do 6 times again in this round. And that pattern repeat is 1 single crochet into each of those first 3 stitches, followed by a single crochet decrease over the next 2. So we'll start that together. And as we did in the last round, we'll work a few repeats together, and then I'll let you pause and finish it up. So our first attempt at a repeat is 1 single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. So let's work our first stitch. Move up our marker, and then 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. Now that I've got 3 single crochets, I'm going to work my single crochet decrease here. So up and under the front loops of those first and second stitches. And that's our first repeat completed. Let's do this again together. 1 single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. Followed by a single crochet decrease. So up and under the front loops again. And that's our next pattern repeat. We'll do this one more time together. 1 single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. Followed by a single crochet decrease. So again, up and under those front loops. And that's our third pattern repeat completed. So you need to do this 3 more times. So pause your video and do that repeat 3 single crochets followed by a decrease around your piece. And at the end of round 40, you should have 24 stitches. And I'll meet you back here in a moment to show you how we're moving into round 41. So moving into round 41, we're going to work 1 single crochet into that first stitch. Moving up our marker. And then we're going to work a single crochet decrease. So again, up and under those front loops. And then we have a pattern repeat that we need to do 5 times. And that repeat is 1 single crochet into each of the first 2 stitches, followed by a decrease. So let's do that together now. We'll work 1 single crochet into each of the first 2 stitches. So there's 1 and 2, followed by a single crochet decrease. So up and under the front loops. And that's our repeat completed. We'll do this again together. 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. 2, followed by a decrease. So up and under those front loops. And one more time together, 1 single crochet into each of the first 2 stitches, followed by a decrease. All right, so if you'd like to pause your video and do the remaining repeats of 2 single crochets followed by a single crochet decrease, you should have 1 stitch left to be worked in this round, and I'll meet you back here in just a moment to show you how we'll finish it off. All right, so I just finished my last repeat of those 2 single crochets followed by single crochet decrease. You should have 5 total repeats of that around, and when you're done those repeats, you should have this 1 stitch, oh goodness, this 1 stitch left to be worked in the round. And in that stitch, we're just going to place 1 single crochet stitch. At the end of round 41, you should have 18 stitches. Now, the next 2 rounds are going to finish off our toy, so this is the best time for you to take that time and finish stuffing your toy. You're going to definitely need to continue to add stuffing as you're progressing and closing the toy, but this is your last time to get the majority of your stuffing in. All right, so now we are moving into round 42, and so we're going to move that stitch marker out of the way, and we have a repeat we're going to do 6 times. So we're going to work 1 single crochet into that first stitch here. And move up our marker. Followed by a decrease. And that's the repeat that we need to do 6 times around, is 1 single crochet followed by a decrease. Okay, so into this next stitch here, single crochet followed by a decrease. So remember, up and under those front loops. And that's our next repeat. And one more time together, 1 single crochet into the first stitch, followed by a decrease. So up and under those front loops. And that's our 3rd repeat. So if you'd like to pause your video and do 3 more repeats of 1 single crochet in the first stitch, followed by a decrease, at the end of this round, you should have 12 single crochet stitches. I'll meet you back here in just a moment to show you what we'll be doing for round 43. All right, so we just finished round 42. We're moving into our last round of our Amigurumi Dinosaur's head and body piece here. And we're going to be decreasing 6 times in this round. All right, so we'll do this a couple times together. So for our first stitch, we're going to go up and under the front loops of the first and second stitch and do our decrease. And make sure to move up your marker. Now in this round, some people tend to get really tense and pull on their fabric, which leaves some bigger holes than needed in this area. So just take your time. It can be tedious because of how closely the stitches are situated, but if you take your time, you won't have so much of a problem. So again, up and under the front loops of the first and second stitch. There we go. And decrease. And one last time together, up and under the front loops of the first and second stitch and decrease. So if you'd like to do that 3 more times on your own, I'll meet you back here and show you how we're going to finish off our piece to get the cleanest finish possible on your toys. So I'll meet you back here in just a moment. So I just finished my last decrease of round 43, and you should have 6 stitches at the top of your piece here. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to do what's called an invisible finish, or sometimes the ultimate finish, and it's going to close up this piece so it's nice and clean along the bottom. This is the absolute last chance to add any stuffing in there. It's already going to be a little tricky because of how small the hole here is, but if you really desperately need to add some more, this is the time. If you don't, then what we're going to do is we're going to cut our yarn tail. You're going to want to cut a tail of at least 4 to 6 inches here for that. And then we're going to pull that yarn tail all the way through the last stitch. Then you're going to need your tapestry needle. Thread your tapestry needle onto the yarn tail. And then you're ready to do your ultimate finish. So I like to get the stitch marker out of the way. Some people prefer to keep that in, but I find it the most handy to get it out of the way because it doesn't obstruct your vision. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a look at your stitches, and it's kind of hard for me to do that with us here. But if you take a look at your stitches, we know where the front and the back loops are at this point. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our needle and we're going to insert it up and under the front loops of each stitch. Working around the piece, we want to go up and under the front loops only. Now, if you need to see this slower, I do have a step-by-step tutorial on how to do the ultimate finish here on the channel that you can check out. So again, we only need to do this 6 times because there's 6 stitches in our round, and we're just working under those front loops of each of those remaining stitches. All right, so now that you've gone through all 6 of those stitches, you're going to pull on your yarn tail to cinch that hole closed. Might need to nudge the fabric with your fingertips in order to get it to tighten. And what you're left with is this kind of little nip thing here that we've got. But that's not ultimate, that's not clean. So there is one more step to this. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our needle and insert it right through. I'm really trying hard to get this much easier for you to see here. So what you need to do is insert your needle through the center of that last round. So there should be like a tiny little gap in the center. You want to insert your needle and then bring it out anywhere in the fabric through the whole of a stitch. You don't want to be splitting the yarn with your needle. You need to come through one of the little holes in the fabric. So it doesn't matter where you come out. Anywhere in the fabric is fine as long as it's through one of those holes. And so what you're going to do is you're going to pull that yarn tail through the center of your last round here, and then watch what happens when you pull on it. It flattens that right out and gets rid of the little nub. And now if you have any remaining, you can just kind of give that any extra little tugs that you need to clean that up, and then you're going to weave in your ends. Now if you've never woven in ends on amigurumi, my favorite way to do this is to tie a couple of knots close to the fabric in your yarn tail. So there's one, and I always like to do 2 knots on top of each other. All right, so I've got 2 knots on top of each other. I'm going to put my yarn back on my yarn needle, and then going back through the same stitch I came out of, I'm going to insert my needle into that stitch and come out anywhere on the body. I like to come out the complete opposite side. And again, when you come out of the body or anywhere in the piece, you want to come out through another hole. And I'm going to use my yarn needle and pull that through. Now let's take a look. So what you're doing is you're wanting to pull this knot here inside the fabric. Okay. Now, if you have a little indent here, like I do, what you're going to do is take the tip of your needle and kind of wedge it underneath and kind of lift it up so that way it evens back out. And you're going to repeat this a couple times. Do a couple of knots, then pull your yarn through your toy a couple of times. And the knots get stuck up in the stuffing there, and they're not really going to budge on you at all. So usually my sweet spot is 2 to 3 times, but you can do more if you were wanting to be extra sure that your toy isn't going to fall apart on you at all. I've never had it happen, even when I've only done it like once, and my kids are pretty rough on their toys that I make them. So as long as you feel like it's got a secure hold, it should be fine. So that's it for today. I hope that you found this helpful and that you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit that like button and please consider subscribing to this channel. If you like free crochet patterns, please check out my blog, theloopylamb.com, where I've got lots of free crochet patterns and step-by-step tutorials just like this one. And I'll see you back next week where we will be finishing off our crochet dinosaurs together. Thanks so much for joining me, friends. Happy hooking, and I'll see you next time.